All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Three Peaks podcast. I'm your host, Lynette.
I'm Coach Mark.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We kind of switched positions this week, but we have a special guest today, Keirsten Lortz, and I'm going to introduce her, and then we'll start getting to know her better. So, Keirsten, let's see, where are you from?
Originally from Wheeling, West Virginia. But
Okay. All right. Wheeling, West Virginia. So her first love of her life was a violin, starting at the age of 4. And that's why I know her, because I took my daughter to her for private violin lessons, and she was an amazing violin instructor, really raised my daughter's game in violin. So, and so you got a bachelor's degree from Duquesne in Pittsburgh in violin, and then played in several orchestras, including which ballet? It was a ballet.
I subbed with the Pittsburgh Ballet.
The Pittsburgh Ballet. So yeah, she did that for 25 years.
Yeah, I stopped playing as much when my oldest went to kindergarten, because for a musician, all of your work is evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And that's when my people were home. So,
yeah.
And holidays, you're playing lots of like 4th of July concerts. So I stopped playing as much, still kept working in a quartet doing, parties and weddings and things. But
okay. Yeah. It can be tough to keep up with that when you've got a family that you're trying to keep up with.
That's true.
Right. And so now you're married with 4 kids?
4.
4 kids. There we go. So 5 kids and
yeah.
Just kidding.
No, okay. He's good.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So then after teaching violin for several years.
25.
25 years of teaching violin. You shifted gears a little bit and became an author, and that's kind of what brings you here today, is you wrote this amazing book called Possibilities, which is, what was the tagline for that book?
So my publisher named it, Possibilities, Partnering with God to Become Your Best Self.
Love it. Okay, so creating a life you love.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So, and then in conjunction with writing that book, you became a motivational speaker and started doing speech engagements all over the DMV area here. And then after a few years of that, became a life coach.
Yeah, I'm just finishing my ICF certification, International Coaching Federation certification.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. So that's why you're here today, because we think what you have to offer can really help our listeners with reaching their potential and unlocking some of the ways that they're getting stuck and not feeling fulfilled in their lives. Yeah. So awesome. Okay, so what inspired you to become a life coach after you had already been so accomplished?
So it's funny, because when I was in college, I always had this mindset of just constant improvement. Like I just always was thinking, I started collecting this file on my old desktop computer of like all these inspirational quotes. And I was always kind of other people's cheerleader. I really wanted people to be their best. And I've always had a mindset of like, how can I be a little bit better? How can I be a little bit better? Like, how can I accomplish my goals? And just like refining that process. So it was always in there. And actually, probably 15, 20 years ago is when I first heard of life coaching, and I wanted to do it. But I have 3 kids, 3 of my 4 kids have special needs. And so just doing anything different than what I was doing and getting more education and training was just like overwhelming. So I didn't do it. And now I'm like, it's funny because now I'm into it and I'm like, everybody wants to be a life coach now. And I'm like, I wanted to do it before. And
you're OG.
I'm OG. So I spent the last 15 years, I pretty much only read, I'm a real geek. I really only read nonfiction. I read all about neuroscience and the brain-body connection. And that is, to me, like such a basis for how I run my life, and the goals that I have for myself and what I try to teach my kids. They don't listen, but that's what I at least tell them.
The ones closest to us, right?
Yeah.
Are the least likely to follow what we tell them.
Absolutely, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, so just a quick introduction. What do you hope that readers and clients get from what you do? What is like the main?
Oh, yeah. So really, I really have a great passion to help people just get over those obstacles. Like we all have goals and we all have dreams and aspirations, right? Whether you want to just be a better mom or whether you want to start a business or go back to school. Like everybody has things they want to do, and we have, our brain is programmed to keep us safe, right? So as soon as we start to do things that are out of the ordinary or uncomfortable, our brain's going to tell us to stop, and then we never get where we want to be, and it can really lead to a lot of dissatisfaction, not feeling fulfilled, not feeling successful, and sometimes our measures of success aren't what they should be anyway, but it's the idea that, okay, you can get there, but you're letting your brain win. And sometimes we need to think through, okay, why am I feeling this way? And rightly so, like sometimes we feel something's wrong because it's wrong, right? There is that. But I think we all know, excuse me, we all know like when it's the difference, but sometimes we can kind of use it as like, this just doesn't feel right. And then, another year goes by and you're like, I didn't do that. And I want to see women especially really accomplish those things. And the biggest thing I think for all of us is just progression, which is why I love the title of your company, Progressive Athletics, because you're not going to go from 0 to 60 in a year, right? It's just slowly, little by little. In fact, going too fast can sometimes be the reason that you fail, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You guys know that, right? Yeah. People overdo it, they get injured or they burn out. And really, it's that idea of what's the next right thing? What's the next right thing? And you just keep chipping away at it and get there. So I really want to see and just kind of be there to help guide people through that.
I have a question going back to what you were saying about people getting motivated, burning out, because we do see that a lot in the fitness industry, right? You're excited, you're, this is the year, this is my year, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and get in the best shape of my life. And so they have that, month or two of like feeling really excited and motivated, and that kind of crashes. In your professional opinion, what is the best way to balance that, right? Like, how do you balance that initial feeling? Like you still want to use that, right? To because that's going to help you take action. But how do you not use it as a crutch, right? How do you kind of transition into something more long term that's going to kind of take a while to get to?
So I really think that one of the most important tools that we can use with clients, whether we're coaching them physically or coaching them emotionally, financially, whatever you're doing, is we need to move away from, how do I put it? We need to move away from the to-dos, like what I need to do, and we need to move towards to be. Who do we want to be? Because when we say, I need to, and we're checking off the list, I need to work out, I need to eat this food, I need to not eat this food, it's very external. And when we start to say, I am this type of person, I eat well, I move my body. And sometimes people think that, if they don't stick with the hardcore fitness plan and, they just start walking, like life gets really busy and I can just walk, there's no point in doing it because I'm just walking. But the point is consistency, and we keep that consistency by creating an identity, not just a to-do list. And the more, it needs to start as a to-do list. Right in the beginning, sometimes we need to do that because in order to have that identity, we need to know what we're supposed to do and not do, right? Or not. I shouldn't even say supposed to, but what we'd like to do to become a certain person. And so I had a client years ago who was trying to get in shape, and we talked about this. And she's like, "Well, I'm working out, I'm doing this," and I said to her, we were talking about changing her mindset and saying, I'm going to eat these things during my day because I'm already a fit person. I'm somebody who cares about fitness. I care about my body. I want to feel good. And so that's why I do this. If there's not an underlying why, if it's a checklist because, I want this goal, so I'm going to do this, I'm not going to stay with it either, right? It has to be in part of who you are as a person.
Right.
So I think that we get really caught up in counting calories, which can be important for some people, or I have to hit this goal this day and this goal this day, and not like taking on the identity. Because when you take on an identity and you have a bad day, it's like, oh, it's okay. I'm still a fit person. I still care about my health. If you have a bad day and it's just a to-do list, it's I failed today, right? So it has a lot bigger impact. It pulls us in the wrong direction.
I think you're so right, because that's where that was the switch for me too. When I a few months in, I was suddenly like, oh, I don't care what I look like. I'm a person that works out and eats well. And it's just what I do. And then I was way more resilient.
It becomes internal, right?
Yeah.
And that's really where you have to get
It has to
make
happen.
a change. Yeah.
Right. If you're going to reach your goal, that has to happen.
Yeah, at some point
The
you have to
identity.
make that shift. And I think there's a great book. I believe it's, I hope I don't quote the wrong book. I believe it's Atomic Habits, where he says, every time you do something, you cast a vote for that new identity that you're trying to create, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you cast more votes in the direction of who you want to be instead of who you were, you're voting for your future, right? You're voting for your better self.
Yeah.
And so I try to tell myself that too when I fall off the path, and I'm like, it's okay, right? I'm still more this better person than the old.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because with the identity, because you're both mothers, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there were times raising your kids where maybe, I forgot to sign that field trip slip, or
worse than that.
Or worse than that. But when that happened, whatever that event was, you weren't like, oh, see, I'm a terrible mother. Like, I'm not a mother anymore. No, because that's part of your identity. So the same thing could be applied to someone who is looking to better their health, right? Just because you missed that one thing. If it's your identity, it's not as big a deal. You don't just, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, you're way more resilient.
Yeah.
Way more resilient. It's so important to put that in. All right, cool. So how does someone, when they're in this pursuit of health or any kind of way they want to make the life that they want to have, how do they pick the priorities and goals that are like true priorities and goals that and then pick out the steps? Because this is what I see a lot of times is people, they think something's important to them, but I don't know, the priorities are a little out of whack. Like if everything's important, nothing's important.
Oh my gosh, I use that all the time.
Right. And then I see this a lot with my clients is, well, I want this. I want to lose weight. I want to get stronger. But then they don't have any steps. So what is your recommendation for picking out your true goals and priorities and then getting those steps in?
Well, first of all, the word priority only came into existence. So it started, I think, back in like the 1500s.
Yeah.
And it stayed a singular noun for hundreds of years. It was only until the 1940s that somebody, dropped the Y and add IES, right?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't a thing. And so first of all, we have to realize when we have too much on our plate. And I really, like my daughter's always like, I just want to like go live off the grid in the middle of nowhere because I hate society. Because you just, people just are, they're hard to deal with sometimes. And so one of the things that frustrates me kind of about society is like we just have too many options. And I get too overwhelmed with too many options. In fact, planning my conference that's coming up in a couple weeks, I have a girl who's helping me and I just keep saying, just give me 2 options. She was like, well, we can do this color scheme. I was like, just give me, you come up with it and give me 2. Our problem is we have too many options. And so we want to do it all. And I think especially speaking to mothers, like there was no Pinterest. There was no social media when we were younger. Our mothers didn't know what kind of birthday parties other mothers were throwing. And now it's just become this competition. It's become this, well, if you love your kids, you're going to have this huge party. I don't like throwing birthday parties. Okay. I don't like it. We keep it simple and we just, and they love simple things for their parties, fortunately. But I think that is, first of all, the biggest thing. We're trying to do too much. And I found that myself, in the past years that I've had personal goals, I've had family goals, I have fitness goals, I have career goals. I kept trying to run my studio. I just closed my violin studio last December. And I'm trying to do all this other stuff. And there's just, and I, want to be like, learn how to make artisan bread. And I want to there's so much I want to, I study Japanese. I still do that. So it's just like, you get overwhelmed, right? So then you just start dropping things, and often you just drop what's easiest, right? So like working out is not easy if it's not already a habit, right? And so if people come here and there, you start working out, and then it's like, oh, well, I have this and this and this, and I just don't have time to drive to the gym today, right?
Yeah.
I also think that it's very clear. Look, people know what their priority. They know what they want. And they know what they don't want. If you're willing to put time, energy, money, your resources towards something, it's important to you. And if you're not, it is not important to you. And as a coach, one of our jobs is not to tell people what they should be doing, right? Or here's where I think you should go. It's where do you want to go? And sometimes as a coach, I can see how somebody would benefit from doing something, but it's not my job to tell them how to live their life, right? And if they're not ready to make a change, I can't force that change, right? If something's not a priority in their life, just because it's a priority for me doesn't mean it will be for them. And so we need to meet people where they are, and people need to think, like, first of all, how important is this to me, right? That's the first thing. How important is this to me? Second of all, am I ready to do it? Right? Like, and is my reality such, first of all, like, in terms of am I ready, let me go back. Is it important? The second is, am I confident I can do it? So do I have the ability, like the skill, right? Or if you're starting to work out, like, do I have the ability to drive to the gym and do a workout? You have that ability, no matter what that workout is. Once you have those two, then you can say, am I ready? Am I ready to do it?
Okay.
And if those three steps aren't in place, it's just not a priority right now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you have to kind of come to terms with that. There are things that we all have to give up to make other things priorities.
Yeah.
Right?
There's always a trade-off.
Right? There's always a trade-off.
Always.
But if you're trying to force too many priorities, then, like you said, nothing's a priority. None of it's really important. And so nothing gets done. And guess where you are? Then you're right back where you were of, I can't get anything done. I'm so unproductive. I don't, like, feel so overwhelmed. Of course.
Yeah. You feel like you're just scattered and spread really thin and not doing anything well.
Yeah, because you are. I mean, ideally you are, essentially. And there are times when you can't control certain things, right? I mean, there are always things we can't control, but there are things that we need in our life to change. Like with my kids' needs, there have been times that have been horribly difficult, right? Like years and years of trying to overcome obstacles for my kids and get them the right help, right? I can't control, I can only seek the help. Right? And so other priorities had to go by the wayside, like getting my life coach training. That had to wait until people were stable and had the help they needed. So there's a trade-off.
Yeah, I think something that, and I'm speaking from experience because I've struggled with this, and I know a lot of people also struggle with this, is looking at your calendar isn't always the best indicator of how many priorities you can actually fit. Right? Like just because you in theory have the time to learn Japanese and start a business and get in shape and do all these things doesn't mean that you actually have the mental bandwidth. Right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we always talk about, Lynette, making sure that, like, when you are deciding what it is that you want to actually attempt, plan for your, like, worst days, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you want to, like, take your busiest week. Okay, can I fit fitness into this? Okay, then, realistically, I probably could do this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we, go after things when times are slow. And as we know, that's not how life stays, right? It's up and down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we always say base your goals on your worst day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't say that. I would never take on anything.
But we're saying you want to make it small enough to where you could do something towards your goal on your worst day. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, when I ran a marathon many years ago, I swore I'd never do it again. and I have it because I got arthritis on my knees. But I was running that marathon, and I tried to take off Fridays before my long runs. And now that I'm saying this, I'm like, maybe this isn't pertinent to what we're talking about, but it's a good point, and I was going to talk about it at some point. And I realized that like my mental health suffered tremendously if I got no exercise at all. And so I just said on Friday mornings, I have to just walk on the treadmill.
Okay.
For 30 to 60 minutes, just walk.
Okay.
Put on a little movie, put on a little podcast, put on something because my mental health, right? So on those days when I kind of scheduled more on Fridays, I was trying to, like, I have a free day from working out. I can do a lot of other things. I realized I need those chemicals pumping through my body so that I can be more productive the rest of the day.
You bring up such a good point. I think a lot of times when we're scheduling our week, we don't think about scheduling time to work out, time to think, time to do something that seems just fun and not productive, but it is productive because it's feeding your mental health.
Yeah, so, you had sent me some questions that you want to discuss today. And one of the biggest things that we do that really sets us back is, and it frustrates me, and I'm guilty as well, but I'm trying to do better this year. I'm creating my new identity of I am not someone who. So is that when we are overwhelmed, when we're stressed, we're tired, right? Like we all need a few minutes sometimes to just chill out. Okay, I got to take a break. Yeah. But what we do now is we go to our devices.
Yeah. That's not a break.
And we believe that's a break because we're kind of just stopping thinking about the things that are stressful. Unfortunately, all that stimulation actually just activates the brain more. Yeah. And I don't know anyone who's ever gotten off of Facebook and been like, I feel so much better now, right? Like you don't do that.
Or a Netflix binge.
Or anything, right? You never leave that and like, the point of rest, right? When you're overwhelmed, the point of rest is to refresh, to rejuvenate, to revive, to kind of fill that cup so that you can pour back out again, whether it's to family or work or working out, whatever. And we think that electronics or screens or social media is that, and it's not. It just sucks more from us. So then you try to go back to your work and you're like, I still can't focus. What's wrong with me? I'm so unfocused. Yeah. No, it's that you didn't give your brain what it needed. Go for a walk. Yeah. Read a book. Call a friend. Write a letter to somebody. Actual handwritten letter. These things are what will actually repair the brain and make it so that you can focus. It's a huge difference. Now that I miss so many phone calls and texts and emails, people are getting frustrated with me, but my phone's on Do Not Disturb and I just put it away for hours. Yeah. And it's incredible how much I can get done.
Yes. Yeah. You're so right. Yeah. Screens do not help you unwind. It's so tempting, I'm just going to unwind for a few minutes, especially in bed. But no, screens do not help you unwind at all.
Yeah. So. And whenever you're scrolling, you might think it's relaxing, but really it's just a form of escapism.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're not really, your brain needs time to process whatever it is that's going on, right? So if you have a stressful day at work or a stressful month at work or, stuff is going on with your kids, if you never give your brain that chance to turn things over, put things into the different files that they're in your brain and really kind of process that, there's still going to be tabs open, and that builds and builds and builds and builds over time if you do not give your brain time to reset. And I think that's unfortunately what happens because it's so easy to just scroll, just scroll for hours.
It's a way of avoiding.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, it's interesting what you said about keeping tabs open because I really, I heard this a few years ago and it really resonated with me. I was like, that's my life. Is that, when we set out to start a task, whether it's, I need to sign this paper for my kid's field trip, or it's I need to make these phone calls, or I need to call somebody to get like my roof repaired or whatever it is. You like open this thought you open like a tap, right, in your brain. And until that is completed, that stays open, right? When you're completed, that circle is done and your brain goes and it lets it go, right? But our problem, again, going back to too many things, we have all these priorities, which makes nothing a priority, which means none of those loops get closed. So our brain is just, you know how slow your computer works when you have 20 tabs open or your phone, right?
Yeah.
That's what we do to ourselves. And it's so detrimental. And so I really love to focus on, okay, I have this one thing. This is my biggest priority. I'm going to completely close this loop. And then I'm going to go to my next priority and I'm going to completely close that loop. And you'll feel like it's like a physical weight lifts from your shoulders. Like, and then you have that increased bandwidth to start adding in the things that you've been wanting. I also, just because of our location here, right across the street is a place called Nourishing Journey. Nourishing Journey is down the street. I go there too. Journey Within Wellness. Okay. And I went there 2 weeks ago and did one of their float therapy. Have you ever done float?
No.
So because I feel like my brain is always, buzzing, it's like sensory deprivation tank.
Oh, cool.
And so it's, no sound, no visual stimulation, no oral stimulation. And then you float and the water is like your body temperature. And so you kind of lose a sense of where your body ends and the water begins. Whoa. And having that lack of stimulation, I was like, you can get a Groupon for them and try it out. But it's like, I was like, I just need to turn my brain off, like completely off. I need this. And so I went over there. I came out feeling like $1 million. Of course, I had like 7 messages from my kids. When I got to the car, I'm like, I'm not even looking at these until I got home. They were fine. But it was just, we've gotten to a point, unfortunately, where like, that's where we have to go to turn our brains off, right? Despite even everything that I do. I'm so overwhelmed right now getting this conference organized. I was like, I need to be like clear of everything. And it felt great. Yeah. I felt like $1 million when I came out of there.
We do have an expression. We're always chasing recovery. So that's what we're always doing. We're always chasing recovery. It's really, people really underestimate how much recovery can help you turn around and be more productive later on, reach your possibilities, reach your potential. Like you actually buy back a lot more energy and time if you're willing to invest that time in some recovery. So that's a really good example.
That's where all the progress happens.
Yes.
Right? Like from a if I just do curls every day, right? I'm going to keep breaking down my muscles, down. They're just going to keep getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Recovery is where it all happens. I'm sure it's the same thing. From a mental standpoint. We talked about.
There's a reason your muscles are sore, right? Like there's a reason you have that soreness because you've literally torn your muscle fibers and they have to rebuild. You wouldn't have a broken car and keep trying to drive it and push it down the street, right? You get it repaired and then you go. So I have this in my mind because our car just broke. So.
I know. I'm looking for a new van, right?
I don't want to spend the money on a van.
I know. I know. All right, cool. So, the third thing we're going to talk about is obstacles and setbacks. We've kind of talked about that a little bit, but there was also a piece in there, overcoming self-doubt. Yeah. So what would you tell someone that's trying to overcome some self-doubt? So my theme for this year is, and I made a post on Facebook and Instagram about this, is like, I'm so excited to fail this year. Are you going to do it with me? I love that. Because we think I can't do it. Well, there are 2 components to this. First of all, we say, I can't do this. So like if I stood here right now and I said, I can't do surgery. I can't be a surgeon. Well, I can't because I don't have the training. But if I said that's a priority for me and I went to medical school and I did the rotations and I did the studying and I took the test, I could be a surgeon. Right? True. That is totally within my wheelhouse if I do the work. Right. And too often we judge what we're capable of based on where we are right now. Of course you can't do it because you haven't done the work to be that person. But of course you can do it. Just put in the work. Like consistency towards the goal eventually gets you to the goal, right? If you want to go to Baltimore
And I say, just get on 95 North. Eventually, you're going to end up in Baltimore. You might get a flat tire. You might hit traffic. You might even have a detour that takes you off the road, and then you have to get back on, right? But eventually, you're going to get there. How you're not going to get there is if you just stop and sit on the side of the road.
I can't go to Baltimore.
And say, I can't go to Baltimore. That sounds ridiculous to us, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we do with our goals.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that idea of just be okay with failure, but it's not even failure. Like, I think when people think I failed, I didn't do this, like, failure to me means like, failure's awesome. Failure means like, oh my gosh, like I tried something new. I went out of my comfort zone. I was uncomfortable. Like I pushed myself further than I ever could. And last year at the Possibilities Conference, Lynette, you were there. We had a young man come in who was like, 16 years old. And he talked about how he learned to, and I knew he'd do great with this. He just nailed it. And he talks about how he wanted to learn to juggle. And at first he just dropped the balls all the time. And he would hear that drop and be like, oh. But then he got 2. And then he was like, I'm going to try 3. But when he upped to 3, all of a sudden he was dropping the balls all the time, right? And so he practiced and practiced and practiced. And then there was less dropping. And then he said, well, now I'm good at this. Now I'm going to try like pins, like bowling pins. And so once he upped his game, he started dropping things again, right? Like anytime we up our game, and then he ended actually the whole thing by juggling swords and then like riding a unicycle out, right? But that's, he was saying he missed the sound of the drop because it meant he was comfortable. And I think that we just want to stay, again, it comes back to this, like, I just want to be comfortable. I don't want anybody to think that I fail, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I would rather I would rather go after the things that are meaningful to me, that I really want, and fail in front of other people, right? Like, that's what I think we're more concerned with what other people think sometimes. Fail in front of other people, be okay with it, then get to the end of my life and be like, man, I really wish I had done this, or I wonder what would have happened if I had done that, right? Yeah. And what we perceive as a failure, others often don't. Right? So I've had times in my life when I'm like, oh, that totally didn't work out. And other people are like, are you crazy? That was amazing that you did that. Like, I could never have done that. And when you put yourself in that uncomfortable place, when you push yourself and you're like, man, that didn't work, it inspires other people. Then they think, well, what could I do? Like, she's doing something totally crazy. What could I do? And it's just we just get in our own way so much. And we just doubt and be like, go fail, because it's not actually a failure.
Yeah.
So their biggest obstacle is saying, well, I'm not good at that. And so, and they're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at that, so I don't do that.
Well, I mean, of course you're not good at it. You have never practiced it.
Yeah.
It's like you come into your daughter's violin lessons and be like, I could never play violin. I could absolutely have you playing violin, right? You just have never done it. Right. Right? And that's what we do. We're like, oh, I could never. Well, when we talk to ourselves like that, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Yes. Because if you believe you can't, you won't ever try it. Yeah. You know?
Why do you think that happens? Because, you know, when we're kids, we have no problem trying things and failing. And, you know, we would never go, you know, if you go to your daughter's violin recital or whatever and she messes up a chord, I don't know. You know, you're not going to call your daughter a failure. Right? You're going to use it as a teachable moment.
Oh, yeah.
Why then do we have such a hard time doing that with ourselves as we become adults, right? Like, why does it become harder and harder as we get older to be okay with failing at things?
That perfectionism just creeps in, doesn't it?
It does. Well, and you know what? It's funny because last year at the conference, it was a one-woman show. Right?
Yeah.
And I had one person, my friend Andrea, who was part of the conference. She taught a wonderful class. She was kind of my sounding board, and she contributed some things for me that became overwhelming. But it was just a one-woman show, and my goal was, don't let perfect get in the way of good. Yeah. Just have the conference. I knew that the content of the conference was phenomenal. Yeah. It's not going to look pretty or fancy, but what you're going to get from leaving there was good. And I knew that, and I had great feedback on that. Now this year, I have somebody doing all the others. So
there we go. So
they're making it look amazing. But I think there are so many reasons that people don't take risks. One is that our brain tells us, right? Yeah. Like, stay safe. It's okay. Another one is we don't want to face ourselves if we feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the way we talk to ourselves when we don't accomplish things just makes us feel bad.
Yeah.
So why would I put myself in a situation where I feel bad? And also, we don't want other people, we're very concerned with what other people think of us. Well, I just don't care what people think of me anymore. Right? It's so liberating. I don't care if you approve of what I'm doing. I need to be, and of course, I say that all with I'm not going to do things that infringe on other people, right?
Yeah,
You can't be like that, because
Yeah.
there are people who have that. I don't care what you think, and they're disrespectful in public and things like that. Not like that. I'm just talking about living your purpose, or going back to school, or doing the things that you're I've always wanted to do this. But what if? I mean, this conference I could look like an absolute fool, right? And of course, I keep mentioning this because it's but 12 days, or not 12,
this
but
is your
17
priority
days
right now.
Yeah, it is. My singular priority.
Yes.
Actually, I have this coaching training I'm finishing, so I have 2 priorities. But we have to just not be afraid of what other people think about us.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Don't worry about. Well, and the thing is what you might think is criticism. You might also, someone might look at your failure and go, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I'll try it too."
Mm-hmm.
You might be inspiring someone. So I was running my first marathon, and I was running 10 minutes, walking 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole time, and people were passing me up for 2 hours. It was soul crushing, but I just kept going and kept going. Around mile 20, 21.
That's when it always hits.
This lady caught up with me, and she goes, "I've been following you the whole time. You have kept me going."
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, so someone's watching you, and you're going to keep them going with your failures.
I feel in that regard, as a mother,
Yeah.
I hope that my girls and my son go after what they want.
Yeah.
And what am I always ask, am I living a life that I would want my kids to emulate? Am I teaching them that, hey, even though you're a mom, you can be an individual too. And you can find, I don't want to necessarily say balance, because I think it's hard to balance things, but you can juggle things in the right times and seasons and in the right way to be true to all the parts of you, to all the identities that you carry. And I think it's really important that we think about that as mothers, just in that regard, that we, would I want my daughter to just give up everything she wants and play the victim? Because, I can't do this because my kids, I can't. Well, that's not fair to your kids either.
Right.
You can't blame them. Then you just harbor bitterness towards your kids.
Yeah, I remember going to my mom's. My mom went back to college when I was 12.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she was, it was crazy, crazy busy. But I remember going to her graduation and just being so inspired and proud of her, she got her degree. And so that turned around and inspired me later on that, I had gotten married and had a kid and still was working on my degree. But I was thinking about my mom,
right.
She did it. I can do this.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And she probably had no idea at the time the impact that would have on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, no, she can do it. I can do it. So, so no matter how much you're stumbling, you are inspiring somebody.
Stumble forward.
Yes, stumble forward.
Well, what would you say, Keirsten, are the fundamentals of reaching your potential? Right, everything can kind of be broken down into its fundamentals. In terms of going after what you want, what would you say are the fundamentals?
So first, I think, is clarity. You've got to know what you want. We talked about this, right?
Yeah.
You got to know what the priority is. And look, we're all going to have more than one. Let's be realistic, right?
Yeah.
But you got to know what that is, and you've got to narrow it down. And if you in that Baltimore analogy, if you ask me how to get to Baltimore, I'm going to tell you, and you're going to get there no matter how slow you go. But if you say, I don't care where I'm going, well, I could send you to New York. I could send you to, across the Bay Bridge. I could send you to Shenandoah National Park. We could go anywhere.
Yeah.
And you may or may not like where I send you or where you end up, right? So you've got to have clarity and focus.
Okay.
And you've got to have consistency. right? Like you have to just, even if it's, you miss a day and you miss a day, even if I just had surgery and I was off my working out game for a few weeks and I'm like, oh, I'm going to die. But I knew that was my identity, right?
Yeah.
If we have things like that, those things that happen, they're going to happen.
Yeah.
And then we have to get back on and say, I'm going to be consistent. Right? Over the course of years, that 3 weeks is nothing. I'm still consistent, right?
Yeah.
It felt like a lot at the time. So those things, and also our mindset. That would be the other thing, is making sure that when the negative thoughts come, that we kick them out. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16, and have always struggled with it. In fact, I was put on a medication at that time that they now know can increase suicidal tendencies in people under the age of 21. And they kept upping my dose and upping my dose.
Ooh.
When I was 19, I took 27 of those pills and an entire bottle of sleeping pills and woke up in the emergency room.
Wow.
They immediately changed my medication. And immediately I went from being suicidal to just being depressed, which felt amazing. Right?
It's all perspective.
It's perspective, which felt amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but having depression, you have such horrible thoughts, right? So, and it's so hard to get out of that. And it's funny, I don't know, when, like back in September, and even though I'm like high function, nobody knows, right? Because I feel pretty good most of the time. But back in September, I just said, my kids went back to school, and I said, I'm done. I'm not talking like this anymore. I'm not telling myself this. And I will get up, some days I get up, especially when it's cloudy, and I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm like, no, that's not who I am anymore. That's not who I am anymore. We're going to do what we can do today. You're going to do what you can do. We're going to get up. And you know what? If you don't feel great all day long, that's okay. We're going to try and at least put a smile on our face when we can. And it changed. It's helped. It's made a big difference, and I'm more productive. I'm a better mom. My husband's letting me laugh. I think he's relieved. And I'm not saying that is the antidote for curing mental health, right? But I would let myself spiral or just stay in that state. And so if you're trying to achieve a goal and you start to see there's no way I can do this, immediately your brain, so we have this reticular activating system in our brains, and the reticular activating system is like if you just buy a red car, or let's say you buy a red, I don't know, I just bought a minivan, so I wouldn't buy a red one, but let's say you buy a red minivan, all of a sudden you're going to notice every red minivan on the road, right? Whereas before you never did. So whatever you tell your brain to look at is what your brain's going to look for. Okay. Right? So if you're telling your brain, there's no way I can do this, your brain will find the reasons why you can't. Oh. You literally told your brain, here's what I want in my filing system, go find it. Yeah. If you tell your brain, I have to do this, right? Like once I schedule my conference and I give the date and people buy tickets, there's no going back.
It's like, okay, you're going to find a way to make it happen.
You have to find a way. And so I'm telling my brain, here's what has to get done. And my brain, as the way it's programmed to, says, how can we get this? How can we find these? Where do we find it? And all of a sudden, the ideas just start coming, and I just start taking action.
Oh, yeah. Right? That works. That definitely works.
It works. And so we think we are in so much more control of our thoughts and our actions. And then I guess the other one would be, when you have these setbacks in the doubt, nothing cures self-doubt or lack of clarity like action. Yeah. You just got to do something. Just start moving. Yeah. When I started this, I had no clue what I was doing. No idea. Like I said, I didn't even like planning birthday parties for my kids, for 5 kids. Like, how am I going to host all these women? But you figure it out. Yeah. You figure it out.
Well, that's interesting because Dr. Huberman, who we always talk about, he talks about how winning in anything, it could be like an event or accomplishing things, actually raises your testosterone in men and women, testosterone as well. Yeah. And the higher your testosterone levels, the more positive you are, the more likely you are to, the more confident you'll be in attempting something else. And so I think a lot of times that's what that momentum is from taking action, right? Like if you kind of put yourself in a situation where you're forced to take action, right? Maybe I want to get in shape, and I've been thinking about it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And then I'm like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm going to call a couple gyms and I'm going. right? That's the first step.
Yeah.
And then you do it,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, okay, like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought there were going to be scary monsters there, but
Yeah.
it was good. Oh, that's a win. Okay, like
Yeah.
next is my first work, and you kind of keep building momentum, and I think that's what the momentum is a lot of times that people feel when they're on a roll.
People will often want to wait. They're like, they want to be motivated before they take action.
Oh, you'll never be motivated. I never wake up in the morning and think, because I work out first thing in the morning at like 6 a.m. I never wake up and think, I can't wait to work out today. I just do it. And then as soon as I start, right?
Yeah.
Then I think you get the chemicals flowing and then it's like, this is great.
Yeah. Usually beforehand you're like, I really don't want to do this. But you just, because this is who I am, you do it. And then during the workout, you're like, usually. Some people it takes longer, or afterwards they're like, okay, I'm glad I did it.
You know the hardest part of any workout?
It's just getting started.
Is getting in the car.
I used to tell my violin students, I would ask them, like, what is the hardest part of practicing? And people would say, like my bow hold, or, like playing this passage, or doing my scales. And I go, no. And I'd walk over to my case, and I'd open it up, and I would tighten my bow and rosin my bow and be like, just getting the violin out of the case is the hardest part.
Stupid thing out of the case.
And at times, when my kids were really busy, I'd be like, I'm just going to practice 15 minutes. Like, I just want to have 15 minutes a day. I mean, I used to play 12 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
So like 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And then an hour would go by, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest.
Are you the one that told my daughter to not put her violin in the case, but just leave it out?
Yeah, leave it out.
Yes, she practiced way more when the violin just sat on the piano. She's like, just walk by and...
That's right. It's like why at one point my daughter kept our pull-up bar right in the kitchen doorway. Yeah. And then every time she'd walk through the doorway, she'd just do like a pull-up or two.
Yeah.
Right? It's there. It's when we make it easy. And that's the other thing is make things easy. Make it easy to work out. Yeah. Make it easy to eat well. If you're, my kids keep making these freaking cookies and stuff. I'm like, I don't want that. I mean, I want that, but I'm trying to get in shape. So
sometimes it's the smallest thing that helps you overcome the obstacle. For me, at the beginning, all I had to do was set my workout clothes next to my bed. Mm-hmm. As long as I did that the night before, I knew the workout was going to happen the next day. Just put the clothes next to the bed, get out of bed, put the clothes on. Oh, I'm dressed. I might as well drive to the gym.
Well, and it's like Anna says in Frozen 2, do the next right thing.
Yeah.
And that's what my son with ADHD, when he can't get ready or he's like, I don't know what to do, and he's like melting and I'm like, what's the next right thing?
Yeah.
Because we get overwhelmed when we think of the whole process.
Yeah.
Right? In the end. Just do the next right thing.
The next step.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool. So did we want to talk about long-term and short-term goals?
I can do that quickly.
Okay, cool.
Here's the deal. Short-term goals, you got to narrow in, get focused, right? You were talking about like a 90-day period when you asked me about this earlier. If you have, some goal that has to happen in 90 days, you got to be laser focused. You got to it's the priority principle, right?
Yeah.
Everything's got to be out. All your intensity, all your energy, your resources need to go to that one thing.
Okay.
You got to close that loop. You only have so many days to do it. That's got to be the one thing you do, right?
Okay.
Right now, I have a conference in like 17 days.
Yeah.
That's it. The intensity is in that.
Okay.
Japanese, not happening so much. That's long term.
Okay.
And then a long-term goal, you can't sprint, right? It's the difference between being a sprinter and a marathon runner.
Yeah.
I can't run a marathon at a sprinting pace. I'm never going to finish. I'm never going to make it past the first mile because I can't sprint a mile, right? So you have to plan that out.
Okay.
And when somebody's running a marathon, people who are professionals, they look at the race course and they plan it. Okay, here's where I'm going to pull back a little. Here's how I want to go out from the start. Then here's where I'm going to, and then, there's a hill here. And then I want to finish this way, right? They plan it. And so long-term goals, not the intensity, right? So don't go at it. It's why people stop working out after a month, right?
Yeah.
Like gyms are packed in January, right? But then by June, nobody's there.
Yeah.
You can't. You just will burn out. So short term, complete intensity, close the loop before you move on. Long term, plan it out, have a strategy.
Okay.
Don't get down if you don't, if you have your detour, but keep going toward that goal.
All right. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay. So then Well, the sixth question was about mental health, but we did kind of talk about that, about being busy and stressed. What habits and practices, really quick, would you recommend for, rejuvenating and preserving mental health?
First thing for me, I can only speak from my experience and the women that I've worked with, but the first thing for me, like I mentioned, really is just being active, right?
Okay.
So like I said, I had that Friday that I used to take off before I'd have a long training run for a marathon, and I felt horrible mentally. And I realized I just need to do something. I need to just walk. I'm just going to walk. And so just being active. And if all you do is walk, that's fantastic. Right? Okay. We know that the biggest jump in health is from doing nothing to doing 30 minutes of light exercise 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. Then from that point to like really intense exercise, small incremental
That's
gains.
True. That's true.
Right? That gap from nothing to 150 minutes of moderate exercise is giant. Right?
Oh,
so just move.
Mm-hmm.
Park further away when you go to the store, right? Put a little pull-up bar in your kitchen and do a little, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Stand instead of sit. When I'm at the airport, I just walk the terminal.
Yes.
Before I get on a plane.
Yeah.
Those things really are amazing. Second thing is something you and I have talked about is rest.
Yeah.
Because, so we hear it, I'm guilty of it. Our society says like, like the less sleep you get, like the more of a tiger you are, or whatever, that you can go after it. Well, the fact is this, like, let's take away like society. Our body has something called the glymphatic system, where every night at a certain point after you've been asleep for a certain amount of time, your body sends spinal fluid up to your brain, cleans out the toxins, and then washes it out. If you don't get enough sleep or not good quality sleep, that doesn't happen. Yeah. And it increases your risks of dementia and Alzheimer's like tenfold. It is incredible. And so people talk about when they don't sleep, they have brain fog or they're achier, right? They don't recover from their workouts. Yeah. That's all because you built up toxins in your brain and you never washed them out, right? You would not go a week without taking a shower. I was going to say you wouldn't go a day, but there are lots of moms who go a day or two, maybe sometimes without taking a shower, especially when you have a newborn. That you don't take a shower, right? Yeah. But because you go, gross, like that would be awful. But your brain actually has its own. It's incredible. Our bodies are amazing. Yeah. Your body has this built-in system to clean your brain. That's why sleep brings clarity of thought. When you have clarity of thought, you have greater bandwidth, right? When you have greater bandwidth, you can handle your stress. You can handle things. You don't feel the overwhelm. You're more productive. You're more focused. You have the clarity, right? Yeah. You can have the consistency. It all comes into play. And then I had written something else down there. I think just like your mindset again, right? Yeah. Trying to stay positive, seeing failures as proof that you are progressing. Yeah. And that's the big thing, I think, is maybe the third thing is progression. Always be doing something to make yourself better. It can be a physical goal. It can be an emotional goal. It can be a spiritual goal. It can be an intellectual goal. But always be learning, always be growing, because I really think that a lot of the mental health issues that we have in our country, especially among moms, and that is a huge demographic that I serve with my coaching, is that they kind of give up everything for the kids. They stop progressing, and then they feel depressed, and they don't know why. Yeah, we see that. We do. Yeah. We definitely see it. So you've got to do something for yourself, and you hear it, and I'm guilty of not doing it. Yeah. But boy, do you feel better. It's better that you're 100% of a mom when you're with your kids, and then you have a little time to do your own thing, than that when you're kids you're like 50% of a mom, and then just feeling bitter that you're not. Right? Yeah. So be fully there. Yeah. You can be and enjoy your kids a lot more, and your family and your friends. Yeah. And this is true for anybody, right? If you feel like, wow, I'm proud of who I am. Yeah. I'm proud of the choices. Show up for yourself. Keep the commitments to yourself. That's such a powerful example to your kids when you have to tell them no to something so that you can do something for yourself. Like, that is so hard for a parent to do. Oh, it's horribly hard. It's for all parents, it's tough, but I think mothers a little more intense. But what a powerful example to them, to show them that you value yourself as a person, and they start to see you differently because you value yourself. Yeah, my kids have never seen me play in an orchestra.
Whoa.
They've never, because when they were little, they were loud and we didn't want to take them. And then when they were, my oldest got to kindergarten age is when I stopped playing to be there for them. And my husband, until we had kids, he was at my rehearsals, he would come to concerts. That's all I did every weekend.
And they've never seen that.
And except for I play in this little orchestra for our church's Messiah Sing for a community thing. But they've never seen
Not in a full orchestra.
They've never seen me do a recital.
Okay. Is that something you want them to see?
Someday, yeah. When I get the coaching business, and I will get back to the music when it's, and I still play, right? I still play at church and I do things like that. But I will say it's, it still makes me sad. Like I can't really go to the symphony because I cry because I had to give up. But you have to make choices.
Yeah. Got to make the trade-offs.
It has haunted me and it has hurt me, right? It's painful for me to not be playing in an orchestra. But I also know, especially now that my kids have all these special needs, we could never have made it if I was gone evenings and weekends. So you got to make hard choices sometimes, right?
I love that. And I just want to go real quick back to what you said about the first thing for mental health was to stay active.
Yeah.
Just got done reading this amazing book called Spark. And it talks.
I haven't heard of that one.
You got to read this.
Okay,
it's a must read. Spark. And it's written by a doctor who takes all these different mental health issues like ADHD, dementia, depression, anxiety. And he breaks it down to what exercise will do for each of those mental health issues. It's amazing.
Well, good, because I've got ADHD, I've got autism, I've got anxiety, I've got depression, we've got all kinds of things. I've parented everything.
Right. So basically exercise really is like step one for any mental health
It's a mind-body connection.
Yeah, it
cannot be overestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our last question that we ask all of our guests is, what are 3 things that elevate your life?
Okay, so you pre-sent me this, we'll be honest. You pre-sent it to me, and I felt like the first thing I should say.
There's no shoulds.
Well, here's the thing. I felt like the first thing is like, I should say the people that I'm surrounded with, right?
Okay.
Because I do have the world's best husband, and I have fantastic kids, and I have these amazing friends. But then I thought, not everyone has control over that. Right? So I want to pick 3 things that we have control over. So the first thing is really personal progression.
Okay.
That I am constantly trying over quarantine when I couldn't be out doing things. That's when I really upped my Japanese game. I've been studying for years and years on and off. But I'm like, this is the time. I also went to Japan just before COVID and I studied really hard before that. It feels good, right? Like that is like such a huge factor in feeling good. Second is staying active. Right? And really, I'm just coming back to all the things we've already talked about. Just being active. Because for me, I know for a fact, it gets all those good juices flowing through my brain and body. And it is the deciding factor, really, in the morning of whether I'm going to have a good day or not. Whether, do I move my body? Whether it's intense or not. Do I move my body at some point during the day? And the third one is just like this mindset that I have. I don't know. I feel like it was something that I was born with and blessed with, but mental health problems run in my family and my husband's family. And even though I've always had depression and really struggled with that, it's hard to explain to people, but I do just have like a really positive outlook. I do feel I've had a lot of times when I've and it's funny because so much of the past decade I've been like, nothing is working for me. I'm so depressed. But in the end, I'm a pretty happy person, and I feel I'm a Christian, so I really believe this was divinely given to me, this gift of just having a bubbly personality, because it was the only way I could have gotten through what I had. Because there were days when I would just cry, right?
Yeah.
And so somehow I have to have something else. And I know that not everyone has that, but it is, I consider it just a gift that's been given to me so that I can overcome those challenges and help other people. And that's the goal, is to really help other people.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Keirsten. Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have talked about your conference a little bit throughout, but let's tell people where it is, when it is, and how they can go if they want to go. No problem.
So ticket sales actually close next Wednesday, March 11th at noon.
Okay.
March 1st at noon.
Okay.
You can go to www.possibilitiesconference.com to
Okay.
get those tickets. It is March 11th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Hilton DoubleTree right here in Columbia. We will have lunch, we will have a break, we have an amazing raffle with sponsors, we have vendors including the amazing Progressive Athletics. We will have, the theme is Discover, Unlock, Create. So we want to help you discover that identity that you want, unlock the mindset that you need, and then how are we going, like practical steps. And to be very clear, I hate going to conferences where I feel great for a day and then I go home and hit reality and I'm like, I can't do anything about this. We want continued support. We want continued progression. And so there's going to be a lot of that. And there's a chocolatier coming at lunchtime.
Oh,
so if nothing else,
so fun.
Get chocolate.
So fun. I went last year and I still remember the things I learned there. It was so great.
You.
And again, I'm usually not a person that goes to these women's conferences, but I took a chance and went to yours last year and it was so good. And I'm so excited for this year.
Well, this year is about 10 times what last year was, thanks to my friend Brittany. So I'm really excited, terrified and excited.
Of course. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great having you.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. We will talk to you next time.
All right, bye-bye.